Just fight a little longer, my friend. It's all worth it in the end. But when you got nobody to turn to, just hold on and I'll find you. I'll find you. I'll find you. Just hold on and I'll find you.
I'm hanging on by a thread, and all I'm clinging to is prayers. And every breath is like a battle. I feel like I ain't come prepared. And death's knocking on the front door. Pain's creeping through the back. Fears crawling through the windows, waiting for them to attack. They say don't get bitter, get better. I'm working on switching them letters. But tell God I'ma need a whole lot of hope, keeping it together. I'm smiling in everyone's face. I'm crying whenever they leave the room. They don't know the battle I face. They don't understand what I'm going through. The world tryna play with my soul. I'm just tryna find where to go. I'm tryna remember the way. I'm tryna get back to my home. But I can't do this on my own. That's why I'm just trusting in you. Cause I don't know where else to go. And I don't know what else to do.
You're gonna have to help. And believe me, they do. We thank you for being here this morning as caring members of our community. It's a beautiful day in the Preach neighborhood, made more special by each of you joining us on the path to ending the silence, building hope. NAMI Ending the Silence is a signature program that we just initiated this year. It's a presentation to middle and junior high school students, staff, and parents to promote awareness of the warning signs and how to get help. Who are we? Right now, I need some audience participation, so I'm going to ask everyone here in the audience who is a member of NAMI Valley of the Sun to please stand up. If you are a member, please stand. And if you would kindly stay standing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We started as a small group of families gathered around a kitchen table in 1979. Now we've blossomed into the nation's leading voice on mental health, offering support, education, and advocacy at no charge. We're not a treatment facility. We are the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. We're working hard to make a difference in the Valley of the Sun. We work in the front lines alongside fire, police, and doctors in the greater Phoenix area, advocating for people with mental illness and their families. When you support NAMI Valley of the Sun, you help children with mental disabilities lead normal lives and give hope to their parents. You help people who have been abandoned by the healthcare system, those who have nowhere to go, and those who have given up. You provide life-saving services in a moment of crisis for those who are desperate for help. We're not just here for the people with mental illness. We're here for the ones who love and care for them, because mental illness affects everyone. Someone you know, someone you love, someone you work with. Maybe it's you. No judgment, no stigma. We're the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Help and hope when you need it most. Thank you. Members?
Thank you. And I'm going to be introducing our first speaker of the morning, Will Humble. If you have been around the behavioral health or public health fields for any length of time, you either know Will Humble or you know of Will Humble. And so we're really honored to have him here this morning with us to help us roll out Ending the Silence. Will is a longtime public health enthusiast and is currently the Executive Director for the Arizona Public Health Association. His 30 years in public health include more than 2 decades at the Arizona Department of Health Services, which is no small feat, we all know, where he served in various roles, including the Director from 2009 to 2015. He has a BS in Marketing from NAU, a BS in Microbiology from ASU, an MPH from the University of California, Berkeley, and awarded an honorary Doctorate of Science from the U of A for engaging partnerships between academic and executive public health. And what I noted is that he has all 3 state universities covered. So, Will is a believer in using evidence-based health policy to improve health outcomes in leading and managing with emotional intelligence. And so I will turn it over to Will.
Thanks for the invitation, Tracy, and thanks for the opportunity. Actually, I just kept going back to school until I found something I liked. You could do that back in those days because the tuition wasn't so bad. It's harder these days. But thanks for the invitation. I'll just take a few minutes. I wanted really to talk about the importance of NAMI as both a community organization and as an advocacy organization in Arizona, and have some personal experiences with how important that advocacy and community mission is. Tracy mentioned Ending the Silence, which is an example of the kinds of programs that NAMI has at the community level to really help build awareness among families about the opportunities for education out there in the community. Ending the Silence, as an example, is it's like a 1-hour curriculum that gets rolled out into the schools. It's for middle school and high school kids. And so it's really at the school level, and it provides an opportunity for the kids to actually learn a little bit more about the things that they may be facing and some of their friends may be facing. I want to encourage you to also to go to the table right there under that orange tree, which has a whole bunch of the other community. I won't go through all of them because there's a long program here, but there's a lot of community-based opportunities for education, family to family, family support group, NAMI Basics, NAMI Connection, Ending the Silence. But it just goes to show you how much effort this chapter of NAMI and really the national chapter and all the other, I think there's 11 other NAMI chapters across the state. So it's that real grassroots community education piece that means so much. The other thing I really wanted to take a minute to talk about is the importance of the administrative advocacy and it's nice that we have a little breeze. Is the importance of the administrative and the legislative advocacy pieces that NAMI provides. Like Tracy was mentioning, I was in the state health department director job during that terrible recession in 2009, 10, and 11. And one of the big challenges that we faced as a state was really the funding cuts that state government had to absorb, which really meant the reduction in services out there in the community for all kinds of services. And NAMI was there to have our backs when it came to trying to defend the services and the funding that was required to keep the wheels on the behavioral health system in Arizona. And it's one thing to have paid lobbyists down at the legislature doing that work, and that's good and it can be effective. But what made NAMI's advocacy so effective during that recession was that they had that real grassroots feel, and there were real people down at the legislature talking about real issues and communicating with lawmakers about what those budget cuts really meant on the ground. And so I was always very appreciative that the fact that the state organization and the local chapters with both the self-advocacy pieces and the family advocacy pieces were there. And there's really no substitute for that. Another place where NAMI is effective is really working with the behavioral health system and doing what I call administrative advocacy. And that's working with the managed care organization, working with Access as an agency to help keep them informed about decisions that they make in the behavioral health system and what that really means, boots on the ground out there in the community for people that need services. And so that's the other piece that I think is so valuable, that NAMI is there and so active and so organized. It's really nice to know you've got an executive director, and I know Tracy from her days, back at Maricopa County. And so I just wanted to leave you with that. You're going to give me the hook because you told me 4 minutes, but but really take some time to look at those resources. Oh, there's 2 more things actually. So one is I like to leave things with calls to action. One of those calls to action today is take a look at something called Mental Health First Aid. And so, I know some of you have been through the course. It's an 8-hour education course in mental health first aid. It covers sort of the basics of the challenges that folks face, the early signs and symptoms of different kinds of behavioral health challenges, etc. It's a really good, useful tool that's evidence-based. It's 8 hours long. It's everyone that has taken it has always said how valuable it is. It's called Mental Health First Aid. You could just Google it and find it. I'm at the Arizona Public Health Association. We sponsored 3 courses over 2 in May and 1 in August, and those filled up right away. We're going to do some more in August, in November. But it's not just us doing them; a lot of people do them. But that's a super good tool. And there's one more thing I wanted to leave as a call to action. This is a really important one, I think, and very timely, like right now. So down at the legislature, there's a bill called Senate Bill 1468. And what this bill would do is to require suicide prevention, continuing education for teachers. I think it's from grade 6 through 12. And right now, teachers need to go through 15 hours of continuing education every year as part of their certificate. What this bill would do would be to require teachers in those age groups to take at least 3 of those 15 hours in an evidence-based curriculum to help them be better informed about the signs and symptoms in their classroom or in their school, so that they know how to intervene and what the effective things that they can do as first responders when they see a behavioral health crisis among a student in a school. So that bill has passed. It was 28-0 in the Senate. It's in the House now. The House of Representatives this year is going slower than the Senate. I don't see any warning signs with it, but the thing we need to watch for is as the state budget begins to be developed, it can move really quickly, and some stuff can fall through the cracks. And we don't want 1468. So that your job is to write that down, Senate Bill 1468, and you know where your legislative district is, and send an email to your legislator, especially in the House of Representatives. You have 2 of them, and let them know that you think this is an important curriculum and really important. There's a small appropriation that comes with it that I think would go to Access to help set this up. But I think it would be a really good, important intervention that would build this kind of awareness into the school system. And the School Board Association is, by the way, okay with it, because there's already 15 CEUs required. This just requires 3 of those to be in behavioral health. So really important, 1468, talk to your representatives, let them know that it's important to you as a voter in your district, that bill gets through the process and doesn't fall through the cracks as part of what's going on right now. So, now I know I used too much time. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, so I am eternally grateful to our next 3 presenters for their passion and commitment to implementing Ending the Silence in our community. We have Chris Nordman, who is a former NAMI Valley Vised board member and currently our volunteer coordinator for Ending the Silence. And without Chris, we truly would not have gotten this program off the ground. Alice Carnisi is a parent teacher and now one of our Ending the Silence presenters, and she had the privilege of providing our first Ending the Silence presentations in February at Broken Prep. And then we have Taylor. She is our budding Ending the Silence presenter in training, and she is an ASU student and also a super trooper for being here today because it is nearly finals week, and so things are kind of getting crunchy for her. So I'll turn it over to Chris.
Hi everyone, as Tracy's mentioned, my name is Chris Nordman and I'm a volunteer program coordinator with the Valley of the Sun chapter of NAMI. My wife and I moved here from San Francisco about 2 years ago and currently live in Gilbert, Arizona with our 1.5-year-old twins. So to explain about why I feel like Ending the Sounds is so important, I want to tell you a little bit about my story with mental health conditions. Starting in elementary school, I would have these out-of-body experiences where I didn't have control over my body or my mind. I'd be in my room playing out these stories of doom and gloom with no way out. A lot of these feelings would come about because of certain social situations and certain triggers. Now, these would be certain things like new social environments, which would make me feel like I was that junior high kid being bullied and isolated from all the other students in the class, which would bring about bouts of acute anxiety. Or it could be making a simple mistake, taking the wrong direction, saying the wrong thing, and all of a sudden I'm that kid in school being put into remedial classes and feeling like I'm less than. And that's when I feel bouts of depression. Or it could be the changing of the seasons and feeling out of control of my environment, which bring about compulsive thoughts. I've been dealing with these feelings for so long that I figured this is the best that life was going to get and I might as well just deal with it. I didn't have the education to tell me otherwise. It wasn't until I was turned 20 that I finally sought help from the urging of a friend. This is when I was prescribed my first mood stabilizer and I started seeking a mental health therapist on my college campus. I had finally received the relief that I needed my entire life. Although, I was still embarrassed of who I was and what I had to do to function within society. After about a year, I stopped seeing my mental health therapist because I figured medication was enough, and really I was tired of sneaking around campus trying to pretend like I wasn't seeing a mental health therapist, and I really didn't want to see somebody have somebody see me walk into that office. Throughout my experience, I would have these triggers that would come about throughout my life, and it would bring about these thoughts of hope and despair. And unfortunately, I would turn to drugs and alcohol as a form of release. Now, the drugs and alcohol would provide this short-term release, but I'd be left feeling worse off than I did before. I didn't have the support or education to tell me that there was healthier ways to go about dealing with my anxiety and my depression. When I turned 34, I finally sought help again. It was 13 years between that time when I finally sought out help. It was because I was embarrassed of who I was and what I had to do to be normal. The reason why I sought help again was because of NAMI. My wife and I had just come back from our honeymoon, where we had spent some time giving back to the local community in Southeast Asia. Upon our return from our honeymoon, I got the volunteer bug, and I reached out to many mental health organizations to volunteer my time. The only organization that got back to me was NAMI, and they expressed that they needed presenters for their Ending the Sounds program. Upon doing research to become a certified presenter for the Ending the Sounds program, I finally got the education that I had so needed my entire life. I learned that 1 in 5 people in a given year experience a mental health condition. This taught me that I was not alone in my struggle. And it also taught me that there was good reason and that I really needed to vocalize my struggle. Not only for me and my recovery, but for the other 20% of society that was dealing with a mental health condition. They needed to know and feel empowered to seek help. Also during these presentations, I would speak to these students in the classroom, and I would see that recognition in their eyes. I would see that acknowledgement that there was hope when no hope was there before. They would think back to their own life, and they would think back to their family and friends. And before these presentations, they would feel hopeless about what are we going to do to help. But now we were giving them information so that they knew what to do. I also realized that I missed out. I missed out on vital education that I wish I would have had when I was in junior high or high school. I missed out on somebody coming to my class and telling me that there's a reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling. That there was something that I could do to better my life. And that I wasn't alone in my struggle. There will always be a little boy inside me that wishes somebody had shed light in a dark world. I missed out on this vital education, but the good news is that we can do something now. We can do something to make sure that the children and adolescents of Maricopa County no longer have to grow up struggling and fearful of the stigma of mental health conditions. And they no longer have to be in silent with their struggle. Now you may be wondering, what is Ending the Silence? Ending the Silence is an evidence-based program given to junior high school students that is rolled out throughout the United States by NAMI. During these presentations, it's broken down into two parts. The first part is a lead presenter that either went through a mental health condition themselves or has a family member with a mental health condition, and they give an informed presentation. The second part is a young adult presenter who experienced a mental health condition when they were younger in their youth, typically in the junior high school, because we want it to be relatable back to the students that they're presenting to. The presentation is also given to the students of these junior high classes. It's also given to the parents and the teachers, because we want to make sure it's a well-rounded omni presentation so that everybody is well informed. The purpose of the presentation is so that people know the warning signs of mental health conditions, know the warning signs of suicide, know what to do if they, their family, or their friends show the signs of mental health condition, and if somebody is showing the signs of suicide, that they know who they can reach out to for immediate support. Now, if you want more information about Ending the Silence, there's some brochures on the resource table, so please go and find those after all the speakers. Now, I'd like to introduce Elise Carnisi, who is an elementary school from Maricopa County, who is our first certified Ending the Silence presenter, and has already given 4 presentations in Maricopa County. Thank you for your time, and here's Elise.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning. My name is Alice Carnisi, and my lived experience is with my son, Gregory. His first mental health diagnosis happened at the age of 8. We made sure to get him into therapy right away. That first diagnosis was followed by an additional 2 diagnoses. It was his junior year of high school, and we thought he was doing well. He had 2 doctors, he was on his medication, he was dealing with a breakup with a girlfriend, and we thought, wow, he's handling this really, really well. And then I took him for his regularly scheduled therapy appointment. The doctor called me back into his office about 10 minutes after Gregory had gone in, and that had never happened before. I found my son in his office sobbing hysterically. Gregory had shared with his doctor that he had suicidal ideation and was 2 days away from going through with his plan. His doctor and I were both shocked. He had shown none of the usual suicidal warning signs. None of us knew that he had been thinking about this and had been researching ways to kill himself. His therapist suggested that I call the insurance company, and they walked me through getting him into a facility. We were really fortunate to actually get him into a facility that night. It was a scary time, but I also knew that I wasn't sure that I could keep him safe if he stayed at home with us that night. I just wanted him to be safe, and I wanted him to be alive. While he was there, he was given a 4th mental health diagnosis of major depression that had gone undiagnosed. Now, this is going to sound strange, but he was actually quite excited to share this new diagnosis with us because he knows that people with depression are able to lead successful lives. When he went back to school, though, he was bullied and ostracized because of his hospitalization and his mental health conditions. He really couldn't wait for high school to be over. Despite all of this, he is now a busy, thriving freshman at Arizona State University in the Barrett's Honors College, seeking a degree in psychology with an eye on law school in the future. Gregory credits his success today to the fact that we got him into treatment at the young age of 8. Early treatment is one of the messages in Ending the Silence. Gregory's diagnoses have had an effect on our family. His sister is graduating from ASU next week with a degree in psychology because she wanted to figure out why her brother is the way he is. I'm not sure that she was able to figure that out though. We have to plan and schedule family trips and outings way ahead of time because Gregory does not do well with spontaneity. My husband and I know that this good streak of mental health can end at any time, and we need to be ready to be there at a moment's notice, and that can certainly be daunting. I had heard about NAMI and looked into the resources offered. I took the NAMI Basics class as a parent because I was looking for others who have been through that same kind of experience with their child. I wish I would have looked for NAMI sooner. The amount of information that I received from the NAMI Basics class was incredible. Everyone's experience was different, but we all felt like we were part of a community and we didn't feel alone. A year after finishing that course, I was contacted by NAMI about becoming a basics teacher. I've been teaching elementary school for 18 years, so I felt this would be a perfect way for me to advocate for stopping the stigma surrounding mental health. While at the training, Tracy mentioned the Ending the Silence program, and it spoke to my heart. I saw my own child being bullied and left out because of his mental health conditions, and I've seen countless students in my classroom over the years go through this similar situations. I know there is little to no training offered to teachers on how to work with students who have mental health conditions. That's why I'm proud to be the first person to present the Ending the Silence program in Maricopa County. I knew I was meant to advocate for NAMI and Ending the Silence when a student came up to me at my second presentation and thanked me for sharing that OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is a mental health condition. His friends wouldn't believe that his lining things up perfectly is a mental health condition. I know that there is a need in the education system to stop the stigma surrounding mental health conditions, and that need is not being met yet. Ending the Silence is a great start to fill that need in our schools. I know that I want to be a part of ending misconceptions about mental health, and being a presenter for Ending the Silence is my way to do that. Thank you for listening to my lived experience this morning, and please welcome our next presenter, Taylor Henderson. She is a junior at ASU, majoring in psychology.
Hello, I'm Taylor Henderson. I'm currently a junior at ASU studying psychology with a minor in Spanish. And this is my experience of what I experienced with my own family. Hello? Oh, okay. Okay, that's better. Okay, so this is my own personal experience and why I chose psychology. So in regards to my family, I grew up with 2 older siblings that live with diagnosed mental illnesses. My sister is 7 years older than me and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a very young age, about 10 or 11. My brother is 4 years older than me and was diagnosed with ADHD in middle school and situational depression his junior year of high school. Due to the shame that the stigma surrounding mental illness brings, my family and I would make up stories when people would start asking questions. Fast forward to my junior year of high school, where every day felt like a permanent state of exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. I'd sleep for almost 15 hours a day, waking up and counting down the hours until I could lie down and shut the world out again. Many people at that age are excited for the future, eager to progress to the next stage of life and move into adulthood. For me, I had no motivation to make plans or move forward in my life because I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. At 16, I received the diagnosis of major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. It took me a long time to accept my diagnosis. Until about a year and a half ago, I still rejected my diagnosis from time to time. I would lie about where I was going when I would see my therapist and only take my medication when people weren't looking or paying attention or when no one was around. Moving across the country by myself at 17 was absolutely terrifying. Nobody knew my story, my family background, or my diagnosis. I longed for this fresh start, but ultimately ended up hiding behind a smile and telling everybody that I was okay and that nothing was wrong. I had to learn to navigate the behavioral health system by myself in a state that I was extremely unfamiliar with. There are several times that I called my mom and told her that I wasn't strong enough to handle the transition and I needed to come back to the Midwest. But here I am today. I will be graduating next spring with my undergraduate degree in psychology, and my experience has inspired me to pursue a degree in behavioral health to work with adolescents and youth. That brings me to how I got involved with NAMI. A few months ago, ASU hosted the 2nd annual mental health conference hosted by Active Minds, a student organization at ASU that combats the stigma around mental illness. And Tracy was a speaker at the conference. I introduced myself and expressed my interest after hearing her presentation about ending the silence and explaining that they need young adult presenters that have experienced a mental illness themselves. I want to be an Ending the Silence presenter because I want the youth of Maricopa County to understand that they're not alone. I don't fit the stereotypical idea of someone who lives with a mental illness, so I hope I can open their eyes to the fact that mental illness does not discriminate and it does affect everybody. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, I got so distracted, my notes aren't out. Okay, our next speaker, Barbara Palmer, is a mom, an advocate, an active NAMI volunteer, and I can't even name how many roles she fills at NAMI. Some of them are family-to-family teacher and currently chairing our programs and education committee. Barbara has truly been an inspiration to me in my first year here at NAMI, and you are about to hear why.
Good morning. It is so gorgeous, isn't it? Okay, I'm just talk right into. Can you see me? I can see you. Well, I have one more story to tell. This is one from the point of view of the family who found NAMI 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, David, my husband, and I, we walked through a door that would change our lives, literally, forever. That is not overly dramatic. It is the truth. We were so nervous that night as we drove toward Arizona State Hospital. In the dark of night, we found this annex and we found a door that said, NAMI Family Support Group. When we walked through that door, there was a very welcoming facilitator who made us feel immediately at home. There were perfect strangers sitting around a table. That night, she went around the circle. She kind of gathered from each of us our reason for coming that night. And finally, it was our turn. And this would be the first time to say out loud, we have 2 sons who have been diagnosed with mental illness. We were young parents living under a silver lining of a cloud that left our life charmed. This was the big curveball, the big surprise. Andy was in high school. At the age of 16, Andy was hearing voices. He would sit in the classroom and these voices would talk to him from the vents in the air conditioning vents in the classroom and tell him what to do, what not to do. It was horrifying. He was having hallucinations. He would eventually be diagnosed with schizophrenia. Michael was also in high school. They are 13 months apart in age. At the age of 17, he is convinced that all the students could see through his clothing, as though he were wearing nothing at all. Can you understand why they self-medicate? Michael was having delusions. He would eventually be diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. So this sounds sort of like a tidy little story, doesn't it? We were a mess. It wasn't. We felt like we were dodging bullets every day. Of course, mental health is a brain disorder. Brain disorders affect behaviors. And so you're sorting out during high school and these younger years, is this teenage acting out? But once our sons were seen by professionals who were able to draw out their story, draw out their thoughts, it became clear. And so they ultimately received treatment and effectively, and we are so grateful to those professionals who helped us along the way. It took a long time, it took a lot of counselors, it took programs, it took doctors, it took the mental health system. So, as I said, we're grateful to all the professionals, but it was NAMI, it was that night that we walked through that door that really helped our family. We learned that we were not alone. I've heard that a lot today. Isn't that interesting? Families feel alone, our loved ones feel alone, but once the conversation starts, you're no longer alone. We learned this was not our fault. I chose to believe them. I wasn't sure they were right, but that was okay. I could check that one off and move on. We learned to see the individual first, not the illness. That is key to remember in all the trials, all the ups and downs, to see the individual first, not the illness. And we learned that treatment works. We left that night, that first night 30 years ago, with hope. So I'm going to fast forward 24 years. Our family was in crisis again. Michael was suicidal. After 24 years of treatment, Michael decided to go off medication. He was over this. He just wanted to be normal. And with the catch net of the mental health system and ACT team, so many, he was dead set on this. We were experiencing heart-pounding concern, literally. My husband, David, and I were constantly at odds. What can we do? What can we say? Neither of us were equipped to deal with this kind of instability. So 24 years later, we walked through another door. To our great relief, family to family, a class had one opening. And David and I signed up, and with 20 families in the audience and our wonderful 3 teachers, we left at the end of 12 weeks better informed and stronger. We felt stronger with this community of support. We knew how to put one foot in front of the other. We learned how to respond to a crisis. This is very real in our families. We learned how to better communicate in a very difficult conversation. We gained empathy. How does it feel to live with voices? What is the experience like for that person? Well, empathy came to the Palmer family because of this family-to-family class in the education. We stopped thinking so much about ourselves and started to remember that, oh my gosh, our loved ones are suffering worse than we are. It was through understanding that we are better able to cope with the ups and downs. And I am so sorry to say that this story does not end well for Michael. At the age of 41, Mike died of mental illness by suicide. Why does one son die and the other son absolutely thrive? That's a story for another day. I don't mean to be glib, and I want to keep that conversation open. I should say that Andy has enjoyed the road to recovery like so many of our family members do, probably most of our family members do. He continues to manage his mental health care, he manages his physical fitness, his animals, and all the hours of the day with thoughtful and purposeful activity. That's a mouthful. That is a lot for a person who lives with his challenges to be able to move through the days this way. He's actually a person who inspires many who know him, especially his father and I. So let me end our Palmer story with the beginning of another. Last week I dropped in at St. Patrick's Church on a Tuesday night to a family support group. I actually now go as a voice of hope. And I sat in this circle of strangers, and this one couple, so young, they were engaged, they were nervous to be there, they were really out of their element. And I'm not at liberty to share their story, of course, because of confidentiality, but I can tell you with great certainty that night, last Tuesday night, this young couple, they no longer felt alone. They learned that treatment works, and they learned to see the individual first and not the illness. We have to be reminded of that. Most important, they left with hope and assured us they'd be coming back again. So you see, NAMI means so very much to my family. I am now an advocate, I teach, I support, and I love, love, love my NAMI family. This last little bit I'm going to skip because it was about our programs, and I just want to thank you for listening.
So you can see we have a lot of amazing individuals who make up NAMI, and kind of hard to collect myself after all of that. But we're really thankful that you're here today and that you are listening and hearing our stories. And we have a big task in front of us, as we know, because the need in Maricopa County is huge and we cannot meet the demand. We have not advertised at all for ending the silence, and we have been getting calls since last summer from high schools, charter schools, public, private, for us to come out and do ending the silence, because they Google and they find it online and they call us and we're like, okay, hold on, we're trying to get this going. So there's a demand that we really need to fill. Our family to family class, we can't offer it enough. We have a large number of people who are continually on our list waiting for a class to open up. And so we really, really are working on our capacity building this year. It's a big task, and it's one that we cannot do without support from our community, and that includes each of you that are here today. So we were thinking, really, there are four ways really that you can help. And the first way is in your envelope that was in front of you. There was a little business card in there, and that's the NAMI business card. The next time someone shares their story with you, and you think, okay, this person could really benefit from NAMI, pull that card out of your wallet and give it to them, and really encourage them to call us, to check our website, and get engaged with our services. A second way that you can become involved with NAMI is through membership. You can go online, NAMI.org, become a member, and stay informed on what's going on both at the national level and the local level regarding policy, regarding legislation, and regarding our programs. The third, as you've heard, volunteers. We are reliant on volunteers to move our programs forward.
We have a NAMI walk coming up in October. Gloria, if you met her at the resource table, is our volunteer walk coordinator for 9 years now, I do believe. I don't think she can hear me. But we have the walk in October. That is really our big event, and it's fun, and we encourage you to be a part of that. And lastly, what you can do today is to help support NAMI financially so that we can continue our work, complete our mission, and provide hope to individuals and families. The NAMI volunteer model allows us to reach more individuals for less cost than if we hire staff and presenters and teachers to do everything. But recruiting, training, and retaining our volunteers has an ongoing financial cost. And that is something that you can help us with today. And just to note, because of our amazing volunteers, this entire breakfast has been entirely organized by our volunteers at no cost to NAMI. The entire cost of everything was provided through in-kind donations, behind-the-scenes anonymous donations, and volunteer hours. So every dollar raised through this event, including the sponsorships we've already received, every one of those dollars goes directly to our programming. So if you look at what does it cost to do our NAMI programs, $35 a month funds one of our support groups for a year. We have 10 family support groups throughout the valley, some that meet twice a month, some meet once a month. We have 2 peer support groups. One meets weekly, one meets monthly. $300 provides Ending the Silence to one school. As we get this program up and running, it is a little bit more expensive, and it's the one program that NAMI promotes that we purchase materials. You'll see on your table there's some postcards that we give to teachers, and then we have little resource cards that we give to students, and then some incentives for student participation that we purchase as part of that program. $500 allows us to provide interim voice to 6 community groups so that we can work to spread the message of hope, stigma reduction. $1,000 puts 10 parents or caregivers through NAMI Basics so they can better support their child. And that is also how I came to NAMI, was through the NAMI Basics class. $1,500 puts 20 family members through Family to Family so that they can learn how to best support their loved one and how to care for themselves. And $5,000 helps train new program teachers and support group facilitators for 1 year. Because of our volunteer model, we again continuously need to recruit and train and support our volunteers. And that does cost us to do that. So there are several ways that you can donate today, and they're referenced in your table packet. In your envelope, there's a card there. You can write a check or leave cash and put it in the envelope, but make sure to include your name and address so that we can provide a receipt and a thank you for that tax-deductible donation. You can fill out the credit card information on the card. We will run that later today if that's the way you would like to do that, and with that. And then also we have NAMI at our website, NAMIValleyofthesun.org. We have a donate. So if you go to that website and click on donate, you can follow the prompts and donate directly online through our website. And so we really, again, just thank you for coming this morning, this beautiful morning. And thank you to the Creech family for offering this lovely venue that none of us want to leave. And there is more food over there, so please help yourself. And I'm going to turn it over to Natalie and Lenore to finish this up.
You almost cut me off. Not happening. I'm Natalie Summit. I'm a board member for NAMI Valley of the Sun. I'm incredibly grateful that you're here today this morning. There are so many people in the audience today that are in our community doing amazing things in the world of mental health and addiction. I could not go without saying thank you for everything that you do. This is a collaborative event. Absolutely. I do have notes, and I don't want to go to them, but if you would like a copy of them with all the statistics, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I will friend you, and I will send it. I'm here as a mother and a daughter of a person with mental illness, and just a couple things just to kind of put another personal story here.
I was one of the first people that had expressed an interest in Chris as a volunteer. He walked in and three of us women went, "Oh my God, he's young, he's cute, he's got mental illness. We are so excited." And then he says the dreaded words, "My wife and I are having a baby in 2 weeks." And I went, "Oh crap." But I love him. A special shout out to the Preach family for this amazing opportunity. I really do thank you. This is my old stomping grounds, and Kathy, if you'll raise your hand. Kathy and I grew up in this area. Did anybody else grow up in North Central and go to the Meadows? Yay! Central High, Xavier, Brophy, all that good stuff. Anyway, I want to thank you for that. I also recently retired from Scottsdale Police Department. That's 20 years to the flipping day as a police crisis intervention specialist. I have seen so much tragedy in my community where I live and work and contribute that my soul is in recovery right now. But 80% of what I did through the police department had a nexus to mental health and addiction. I kid you not. It doesn't matter if it was abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, death and dismemberment, sexual assaults, child abuse. The list is endless. There was always that nexus there. And I'm not saying an us and them because it was 9 years ago that I decided to stop drinking and stop medicating so that I could deal with my own anxiety. So I now also claim to be one of those family members as well. And it's such a better life, but you know, that transition of stopping the self-medicating to go ahead and deal with the demons of mental illness, whatever they may be, that's not an easy decision. This envelope right here is from my daughter and her husband in Flagstaff, Arizona. I have no idea what's in this envelope, but the two of them said, "I want you to take this to the breakfast." They have a daughter who was, I don't know how else to say it, was the best friend of one of those young people, young women who died out in the Santan Valley from ending her life. I'm a mom, so I'm curious what's in here. I've done this whole thing. But you know, the bottom line is they're not wealthy people. They have 2 small kids, and they're having a hard time making it every single day. And this is what they wanted to do. It was important for them to do that. There was someone else it was during my I came to NAMI in 2008 to take the family-to-family class. Now, I'm a mental health professional. I have the LPC behind my name. And do you know that back then, I had to prove I was a family member of mental illness to get into that family-to-family class. Because what they didn't want is a bunch of mental health people coming into the class to go ahead and get extra training, because that's how quality it is. It was class 6 that I had a profound experience that helped me understand my son. The last family-to-family class that I taught was the class that, where are you, Barbara? It was the last class that I taught where Barbara's son ended his life. It was also the last class where my own mother with mental illness and addiction died. It was a profound family-to-family class. Folks, I don't care if you have a pot to piss in. If you would use the card and share it, if you would tell someone about what NAMI has to offer, if you have funds, if you have no funds and you know somebody who has funds, everything that we offer is free of charge to the community. The only way that we are financially supported is through events like today and the NAMI Walk. Thank you. Pretty easy to see why I'm very, very proud and very happy. And I want to thank, just second everything that has been said in the thank yous. A little shout out to you table captains. You did good. I pushed you and you got these great, wonderful folks here. So thank you to our volunteers. Thank you so much to our board members, to Tracy, and to everyone who has made this happen, because believe me, it's a team. So go and have a great day. And don't forget what you're here for.